Hello and welcome to the EnSpirit podcast, where we inspire you to develop and enhance your entrepreneurial talents and skills. This series is packed full of information, tips and interviews that help you change and find the edge in your game. I'm your host, favour. I'm a performance psychologist, and I've been working with entrepreneurs and business owners for the last 25 years, helping them improve their game. To find out more information about me, please look on all social media platforms, but specifically Clubhouse and Instagram. Before we launch this week's episode, I'd love to tell you about the Change Your Game scorecard. If you're struggling to achieve what you really want and you're not sure where to start, the Change Your Game scorecard will help you identify where you need to improve. Life is a game, and there are 3 core games you need to conquer to succeed in life. That's the inner game, your mindset, your emotions, your thoughts. Your game plan, that's your strategy and your roadmap. And then your outer game, how consistent and persistent you are in taking actions. The Change Your Game scorecard will help you identify how strong you are in each of those games. Please visit changeyourgamescorecard.com for more information and get your report today. Thank you for listening. Hi and welcome to the next EnSpirit podcast. My name is Beju Solanki. So today we're going to talk about intuition, how to trust your intuition. Intuition, what I believe, is your sixth sense. We know about the 5 senses, sight, hearing, feeling, tasting and smelling. And we use those senses in various modes every single day. And I think intuition is your sixth sense. It's that unknown whereby sometimes, how many times have you sensed something that your gut says something, your intuition says something, but you take the opposite action based on a logical premise? And my question to you is, while you're listening to this podcast, is how many times can you think of where your intuition has been wrong? But we still have trouble trusting our intuition, trusting that sort of feeling, because we can't give there's not like, well, 1 + 1 = 2, but I'm getting here 3. So you go against the grain, you go against society's norms, you go against what you've been taught, you go against what you feel is right for you because you don't trust yourself. So there's 2 parts of this. Number 1, how do you increase your intuition? And 2, how then, once you've increased your intuition, do you trust yourself? The way you increase your intuition, you need to start to understand yourself more. The way you understand yourself more is you need to feed your sense of feeling. So this is things like meditation, things like being still, things like not being disturbed, things like exercise, things like mindfulness, things like doing things that allow you to be calm, where you've got a really low sense of information coming to you. Because attention on yourself, you've heard the phrase, sometimes we look for answers for certain things in our lives and we go searching for these answers. And in fact, the answers are all within us, within our intuition. So number 1, how do you then increase your intuition? Well, number 1 is silence. Stay in a sense of silence, being still with yourself. Let me ask you a question. How many times during the day do you give yourself the gift of just being still? That could be just sitting in the car for 10, 15 minutes. It could be at home, wherever it is. We go to sleep at night and we allow ourselves to be still. But then we're like 100 miles an hour, bang, 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 doing certain things. You're doing work, you're with the kids, you're with your partners and all other things. And you've got hobbies. And then our downtime is sort of watching something on Netflix or something, which is good. There's nothing wrong with entertainment. And then it's about then saying, okay, how do you feed yourself? Yeah, exercise, physical movement is fantastic. But what we don't do often enough, I believe, is give our mind some silence. When you start to give your mind some silence, it allows it to percolate. It allows it to sort of settle. And then you start getting different thoughts, different feelings. And when that quiet mind increases, your intuition increases. You start listening to your body and listening internally. So me personally, there's 3 or 4 different ways I use to grow my intuition. Number 1 is physical exercise. By going physical exercise, it occupies my mind in that focus, which means it's quiet. I don't have to think about anything else. But what it also does is once I finish exercise, is that sense of achievement and that sense of calmness, because everything feels just calm for me. A healthy diet. Again, when you put good things in your body allowed to grow. When your body is allowed to grow, then it feeds everything else. You have better thoughts. You feel better. With feeling better, you can be more productive. Meditation. Now, I meditate in different ways. I walk. I don't necessarily meditate sitting down, sort of with listen to music as such. I've done that in the past, but more recently, my form of meditation is walking, just and just listening to some music, some very quiet music. And when you listen to when you walk and meditate in your way, exercise for me is meditation as well. When you start to meditate, again, it gives you're feeding your mind to have a sense of focusing your attention on one thing. The mind is so exposed to so much information around the world, is we're not allowed ourselves to have a quiet mind, which means our intuitions get suppressed. In order for our intuition to rise to the surface, for us to trust it, we need to quiet ourselves. We need to quiet the attention. We need to get rid of distractions. And the more we get rid of distractions, and the more we are attentive on one thing, the better. Another thing is being creative. Allow yourself to be creative. Now, that could be in many different ways. It could be painting, it could be creating some art, it could be writing, it could be reading. So, when you're creative, it enters a part of the mind that actually focuses on where your intuition is, because it goes away from the logic, it goes away from the 1 + 1 = 2. So, when you start to understand that and start to understand how you can increase your intuition, how do you then trust it? What do you do to trust it? Well, there's several things again here. Number one is ask yourself this: what would be the impact on your life if you trusted yourself for the next 7 days on everything? Just trust yourself. And my invitation is to look in the past in life when you have not trusted your intuition, not trusted that feeling. How many times have you been wrong? I will guess very, very few. Probably zero, but very few. But we suppress our intuition, we suppress our gut instinct, we suppress our sense of being for the logic, for the evidence from the outside, from someone else's opinion, from the story that we have in our past, from what our mum and dad said which should be the way. And they usually have no bad intention, but their way is based on their fathers and mothers and their history. So all of a sudden, if we're repeating what people say to us from generation to generations, we're not allowing our own intuition to kick in. We're not allowing us to trust ourselves because we're so much exposed to the world. So number one is give yourself permission to trust yourself. Then, when you have a feeling, is act on it. Act on that intuition. The biggest challenge for a lot of people is saying no. Saying no comes with a sense of your intuition sometimes as well. Are you able to say no in a way that it feels good? It might not suit other people. It might not suit the world. It might not suit other people's agendas. It might not suit your immediate agenda, but it suits the bigger agenda when you start that. Another way to trust your intuition is to give yourself a space. So somebody might pushing you for a decision, someone might be asking you for lots of advice. There's nothing wrong with giving yourself space, stepping back and taking some time out. Because when you start to take time out more often, you start to learn to trust your intuition more, because you realize actually you start doing things that work for you better, that sit with you better. And we don't allow ourselves to give ourselves that space. And that's why, physical fitness, eating the right foods, and meditating in whatever form works for you is really great, because what you're doing is you're getting rid of a distraction, you'll get rid of all the attention and focus on yourself. And when you focus on and give yourself your space to think, it starts to, you're training your mind, you're training your feelings to come to the fore. You come to the fore. Now, with experience and with wisdom, often comes that, because we realize actually the logical ways of doing certain things in our lives before haven't worked, because I've been taught those things. And as we grow, our wisdom, we get confident in ourselves. We feel better in ourselves. We trust ourselves more, which then we start to use our intuition. How many times have you been asked the question, if you knew now what you knew when you were younger, you'd be unbeatable? We'll all be there. The wisdom we have when we're 30, 40, 50, 60, having that wisdom when we're teenagers, early 20s, early 30s, we'll all achieve great things. But with that wisdom comes trusting your intuition, and we don't trust our intuition enough when we're younger. So, what could you do this week to trust your intuition? What could you do this week to allow yourself, just give yourself a week to say, right, this week, I'm just going to trust my intuition and go with the flow and see what turns up. See what turns up in my my assertion would be this: is that you'll start to feel calmer, you'll start to feel more confident, and you will start to feel more assured in yourself just by trusting your intuition. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please, I hope you enjoy these little monologues. If you like these, please do share it with anybody you feel might enjoy the EnSpirit podcast. Please look out for new episodes coming all the time, and I look forward to serving you again very soon. Take care. Thank you for listening. To find out more about myself or the Change Your Game Scorecard, you can visit changeyourgamescorecard.com, where you can find out how strong your game is and get a full detailed report. Also, if you found this episode useful, please do leave a rating or a review in iTunes to help others discover it too. Until the next time, my name is Beju Slanky.